Okay, so today we'll discuss a few questions on ratio and proportion. Okay, now this chapter basically this year you do not have the ratio part, you only have the proportion part like last time. Okay, so we will basically do a couple of questions on the proportion portion. Okay, but as is obvious, you will have to have a bit of a knowledge of ratios also before we go ahead with the proportion portion. Okay, so we all understand that whenever we talk about something which is known as a ratio, so it's a comparison of two things. Okay, so you can say x is to y. Okay, now this symbol that you see, this sign that you see, two dots, this represents the ratio. Okay, this can however also be written as x upon y. So it's basically one number upon another number. Okay, and you must also remember that this portion in the numerator, it is known as antecedent, and this denominator portion or the number in the denominator or the second ratio is known as, it's essentially one ratio but you have two numbers in them. Okay, so one number is to another number. Okay, so the number which is written at the top is usually the number which is written to the left side in the ratio sign. Okay, so you have this as consequent. Okay, so you have antecedent at the top and then you have consequent at the bottom. Okay, so this is the basic idea that you have with regards to ratios. This can be numbers, this can be whichever form you want to write it in. It is basically a comparison of two numbers. Okay, now similarly, just like you have x is to y, now this is one ratio. Okay, so let me call this as one ratio. Okay, similarly you can also have, let's say for example, y is to z. Okay, so is this another ratio or not? Yes, this is another ratio. Okay, another ratio. Okay, just like we had antecedent and consequent in this ratio, we will also have antecedent y here and consequent z here in this particular ratio. Okay, now the reason why I have taken up two ratios is because naturally we want to study proportion. So when we study proportion, it is basically the relationship between two or more ratios. Okay, so let us have a look at how we write the symbol and how do we represent proportion basically, and then we'll go on to solve a couple of questions. So let's say for example I write x is to y is equal to y is to z. Now in this particular line, what I have essentially written is, I have written, you all know just now I have explained that this is one ratio. Okay, similarly this is another ratio. So these are both ratios. Okay, when they are equal to each other. Okay, there is a condition that arises, that may arise, not all the time, but it may arise so that the ratio, the first ratio and the second ratio, they become equal to each other. Okay, so essentially what happens is, you can also write this in the form of, now I'm going to introduce that proportion sign, which is this. Okay, it's actually two ratios put together in the form of this four dots. Okay, so this is what you have. Okay, this is what is known as proportion. Okay, so similarly you can also have many more ratios put together. So one ratio may be equal to another ratio, or three of the ratios may be equal to each other, and so on and so forth. Okay, so essentially what is proportion? Proportion is when you compare two different ratios and they are equal to each other. Okay, the symbol is this. Okay, four dots, this represents the proportion symbol. Okay, this also naturally means equal to. Okay, so this part of the ratio and this part of the ratio, they are equal to each other. Okay, so that is what this symbol means. Okay, now one more thing that you have to understand here is that when you have such a proportion, there are numbers allotted to it. So this will be called the first proportional, this will be called the second proportional, this, as you would have guessed rightly, this would be the fourth, and this would be this would be the third, and this would be the fourth proportional. Okay, this would be the fourth proportional. Okay, so when you talk in terms of only one ratio, then you will not have all this. You will simply have one number is to another number, or probably hide this number is to this number. This is an individual ratio, this is an individual ratio, but when you put them together, they are equal to each other. You come across what is this, what is known as this, how it is represented is this, and the name given to it is proportion. Okay, so it's one ratio equal to another ratio. Okay, so this is what is known as proportion, and once you come across a proportion, you have first proportional, second proportional, third proportional, and the fourth proportional. So based on this, we will be solving two questions today, just to clear a few doubts that had been asked earlier. So let me just bring up a couple of questions from the book itself. Let's say, for example, let us begin with this question first. So the question here is that we have to find the fourth proportional to a square minus ab plus b square in one bracket, comma, you have a cube plus b cube as the next, and you have a minus b as the third one. Now let us understand this question first. The question says find the fourth proportional to this, comma, this and this. So essentially what you are seeing as a part of the question is this first number or the first entity will be the first proportional, this one will be the second proportional. Okay, this naturally becomes the third proportional, and obviously there is something that you don't know, and that will be your fourth proportional. Okay, so essentially your question has asked you that fourth number which is going to be there. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3 and the fourth number. And if you remember, whenever you have proportion, it is actually, the meaning of that word proportion is two ratios put together, or two or more ratios, but here we will have two ratios. So this will form the first ratio and this will form the second ratio. So let me write it down in that in the fashion of the proportion, in the way that proportion is written. So let's say, for example, I have this is to the second number, which is this. Okay, so this is to this becomes my first ratio, and then I introduce the proportionality sign, which is this sign. So this ratio should be equal to another ratio. So what will be that second ratio? That second ratio will come from here. So a minus b, which was already given, but the fourth number or the fourth proportional we don't know. So let me call that as x. Okay, the moment you see this, now you can clearly interpret that this is in the proportion format. So these two are going to be multiplied together because these are the means and these are the extremes. As you already know, the product of the means is equal to the product of the extremes in a proportion. Okay, so you have this into this. Okay, so let me just write this down. These are the means and these two are the extremes. Okay, these two are the extremes. Now let me just show you the remaining calculation. So essentially what we have to do is we have to find out this fourth proportion, which is x. So x naturally should also come in terms of a and b, because you can see there are no numbers involved here. The only thing involved is a and b. Okay, so your x value will also come out in a and in terms of a and b. Okay, so let me just use this product of means. So product of means basically is this mean multiplied by this should be equal to, because the meaning of this symbol is nothing but equal to. So you have product of the extremes. So this time the extremes, first extreme is this extreme, so you write this plus this into x. Okay, it is now that you have to be a little bit attentive to what exactly is given in the question. If you notice, this particular portion can be expanded. You see, it is a cube plus b cube. In algebra, you must have studied a cube plus b cube formula, expansion formula, and a cube minus b cube formula also. So let me just write that down, then you will understand how essentially this is going to get simplified. Okay, so a cube plus b cube, let me first write the formula. A cube plus b cube, when you write it in the expanded form, it looks like this: a plus b, and then in the second bracket it is a square plus b square minus ab. Okay, this is the expansion of this particular bracket. So a cube plus b cube will always be a plus b bracket a square plus b square, and this ab will have the opposite sign. Okay, similarly, had it been a cube minus b cube, then this would have become a minus b according to the sign present here. Here the sign present is plus, so this is plus. Had this been minus, this would have become minus. Okay, now coming to the second bracket, had this been minus, then this would have become plus. Okay, so that is the only change that you have. So you must know this in order to solve this question. So a cube plus b cube, this is the expansion. Now please remember that this a minus b was already present here, so I'm going to write a minus b equal to a square minus ab plus b square, which was already present on the right side, you can see here, into x. Okay, so this is what I have. Now, if you look at this carefully, now I'll simply remove this curly bracket over here. The reason why I had put this curly bracket was to show you that this entire portion here is the expansion of this. Now that you have understood this, let me just take this curly bracket away. Now, reason why I have done this is so that you know that these three brackets are actually getting multiplied with each other. Okay, and you can see there is a similar bracket on the right side also. Have a look at this and have a look at this. Aren't they the exact same things? A square plus b square, so you have a square plus b square here also, minus ab minus ab. So this entire bracket gets cancelled out with this entire bracketed portion. Okay, so you have on the right side, you have x equal to, what do you have on the left? A plus b, a minus b. So that gives you a square minus b square. Okay, this is your fourth proportional. Okay, so your fourth proportional is basically a square minus b square. So now coming to our next question, which will be the last question for this particular lecture. What least number should be subtracted? So the main word here is subtracted from each of the numbers, this number, this number, this and this. So there are essentially 1, 2, 3 and 4 numbers which are there. Okay, question says that what least number should be subtracted from each of these numbers so that they are in proportion, or so that the remainder is in proportion. Okay, so essentially we in the beginning we have this number, this number, this number and 78. Okay, these are 4 numbers. Now the question has not said that they are in proportion right now. They are not in proportion yet. We have to do some change to them. Okay, we have to change them slightly. In what sense? there has to be some number which should be subtracted from each of these numbers. Okay, so let me just show you this. Let's say for example I have this after subtracting. So this after subtracting, this becomes the remainder after subtracting x from this number. Similarly, I will subtract the same number x from the second number. Similarly, I will do this with the third number and the same with the last number. Okay, now once I have subtracted, you can see I have subtracted that same number from all these four numbers. Okay, so I essentially get this. Now the question is saying that after subtraction they have gone in proportion, they have become one ratio is to another ratio, or they are in proportion. So I will remove these commas from here and I will simply use the proportionality sign. Okay, so essentially this is what the question is saying, that after subtraction this ratio and this ratio, they become equal. Okay, so again, if that is the case, then these two become the means and these two become the extremes, and product of the means should be equal to product of the extremes. Okay, so we have 30 minus x multiplied by 57 minus x should give me 23 minus x multiplied by 78 minus x. So essentially once you do this, the remaining portion is entirely calculation. Okay, so you have to do 30 into 57, so 0, and then you will have 3 7s are 21, carry 2, 3 5s are 15, and 2 17, so 1710, and then this 30 with this, so you have minus 30x, then you have minus 57x, and then you have minus x into minus x, which will give me plus x square. Okay, so basically you just have to multiply these two brackets on the left side and on the right side also. So you have 23 into 78. When you will do, I think I had just calculated it over here, you will have a number 1794. Okay, so 23 into 78 will be 1794. Then 23 into minus x will naturally give you minus 23x. Then this 78 and this minus, so you will have minus 78x, and then again lastly minus x into minus x, which will give you plus x square. Okay, so it is now that you will immediately come to know that you have x squares with the same sign on both sides, so they will get cancelled, and you have these two as the like terms and these two as the like terms here. So let us add them up. Okay, both are with minus sign, so let me just write this 1710 first, and then you will have minus. So when you add them up, you will get minus 87x is equal to 1794, which was there on the right side, minus, similarly you will add these two also because they are both like terms with the same sign. So 8 and 3 11, this will become 101x. Okay, so now you can see it is reducing, getting simplified. So let me just finish this up. In the last step, you have this number and this number, and then you have these two as the like terms. So naturally I will have to take this minus 101x to the left side to make it plus. So it will come to the left side, it will become 101x with a plus sign, and minus 87x was already there, equal to 1794 was already there. I will take this to the right side, so it will become minus 1710. Okay, so lastly in the last step, you can see these are both like terms and it is getting subtracted, so you will simply subtract them. I think you will get 14x here, equal to 1794 minus 1710 will obviously give you 84. Okay, so now it is 14x is equal to 84, therefore x becomes 84 upon 14, which I think is 6 times. 6 4s are 24, 2 6 1 is 6 and 2 8. Yes, x becomes 6. So essentially, now let us come back to our question. The question was, what least number should be subtracted from each of the, so what is that least number? We had assumed that least number to be x, so my x value has come out to be 6. Okay, I hope this helps. All right.